for...
Good evening and welcome to the full council meeting, Tuesday the 21st of January 2025. Just to let you all know, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed onto YouTube. Moving straight onto the agenda, we're going to go item 1, which is apologies for absence. I've received 2 so far, one from Councillor Bailey and one from Councillor Summers. Is there any more apologies? Councillor Oates.
Yes, Mr Mayor, can I submit apologies for Councillor Thomas J?
Thank you very much. Is there any more apologies? Thanking you. We're going to move to agenda item 2, which is we've received the minutes for the previous meeting, which was dated the 10th of December 2024. Is there any items that are need raising regarding these minutes? Can I have a mover, please? Okay, I've got Councillor Wood straight away. Have we got a seconder? Oh, Councillor Couchman. All those in favour? Okay, any against? Any abstentions? That's carried, thanking you. Now we're going to go to agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any interest they need to declare? Councillor Statham.
Carry on.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. It's just in reference to item 6. My employer is directly referenced, so I won't be voting on that motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other declarations? Okay, nearly said it. Item 4 is announcements from the Mayor, Leader, members of the Cabinet and Chief Executive. From myself, just want to say welcome to 2025. Hopefully we'll have a good year. We've got a couple of events coming up. I've got on the 19th of February a folk music concert at the Helping Hands Cafe to raise funds for my 2 charities, which is the Hygiene Bank Tamworth and Changes, the mental health charity. We've got a few more coming up as well, an Easter one, so please keep a look out on the socials. And just want to say thank you to all the councillors and residents that have supported me so far in my events. We're doing really well with fundraising, thanking you. Is there anything from the Chief Executive? Okay, we're going to move to the Leader of the Council. No, and any messages from the members of the Cabinet? Councillor Daniels.
Good evening, Mayor, and a Happy New Year with our first meeting. Mayor, you were there. Tamworth versus Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, wasn't it amazing? We know that score did not reflect how good that match was. And if you get a chance, if you haven't done so already, please take the time to read the social media comments. We had people from around the world talking about our town, you know, the little town that could, Tottenham fans even saying, you know, they're robbed and that they had to bring on their best, most expensive players versus the plumber. I thought it was a really great day for the town that brought us all together. Speaking of things that will bring us together, I must say I'm looking forward to your karaoke, another fundraising event that you have coming on. But away from the fact that it's going to be a fun night, we know the importance is about fundraising, Chair, and indeed raising, Mayor, and indeed raising awareness. I'm a little bit nervous because you know me, Mr Mayor, sometimes I go against protocol, and I wonder if I could invite one of our members of the opposition to speak, if that's okay, because that date itself is really important in the national and international calendar. And I wonder if Councillor Clements would be willing to explain what the British Legion will be doing for National Holocaust Memorial Day, because I think it's the kind of thing we should be supporting. And I want to thank you for the email that you sent out about it, if that's all right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Daniels. Nothing like being put on the spot, is there? Yes, the Royal British Legion will be holding a short service of remembrance on the 27th of January, which is Monday, at 11 o'clock outside St Editha's Church. So wrap up warm because it's bound to be cold. And it's just a short remembrance so that we can remember and hope that none of these atrocities ever happen again. Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much for that. Is there any more announcements from the Cabinet? Okay, we're going to go to item 5 on the agenda, which is question time. So the first 3 are from the members of the public. So under procedure rule number 10, Mr Maycock will ask the portfolio holder of People Services, Engagement and Leisure, Councillor Lewis Smith, the following question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Hello everyone again. You may remember me from times past. Can Councillor Smith provide a detailed account of what actions he has personally overseen regarding the Armed Forces Covenant since it was added to his portfolio, including any interactions he has had with the Armed Forces community? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lewis-Smith.
Thank you for the question. Tamworth was formally awarded the Silver Employee Recognition Scheme in September 2024 to recognise support for the Armed Forces veterans seeking employment, and we've also met some of the standards as well set for the Gold Award. There was an updated Armed Forces Covenant Plan which was overseen and scrutinised by Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny, and I put forward the suggestion of the appointment of an Armed Forces champion that was not a member of the Cabinet. The previous Cabinet member that had this, the Armed Forces Covenant under their portfolio had been a member of the Armed Forces, so it made sense not to have a specific champion for this. However, to respect the lived memory of those that have served in the Armed Forces, it should be a councillor that is a veteran. So, hopefully the leaders will not mind me revealing that we've suggested that Councillor Clements should be the individual in that role, as she's done so much to represent our Armed Forces community. So we've put Councillor Clements forward as the Armed Forces champion.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Do you have a supplementary question to your original one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Can Councillor Smith confirm whether the Council still stands by its commitment made when re-signing the Armed Forces Covenant, particularly those who have been injured or bereaved?
Councillor Lewis-Smith.
Yes, definitely. I can definitely say that the council would be upholding everything to do with the Armed Forces Covenant, yes.
Thank you. We're going to go to question 2 of the public under protocol rule number 10. Mr. Maycock will ask the leader of the council, Councillor Carol Dean, the following question. Mr. Maycock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can the leader outline what measures the council has implemented to ensure financial assistance and support is accessible to the most vulnerable residents, including those affected by unaffordable housing costs?
Councillor Carol Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Maycock. It's nice to see you again. Tamworth Borough Council introduced from April 2024 a banded council tax reduction scheme for those who are most financially vulnerable. Banded schemes mean less changes during the financial year, less council tax adjustment notices issued, and less changes to instalment plans, which overall makes budgeting household bills much easier for our residents. We can confirm that this scheme will continue for the next financial year, ensuring that we can support those most financially in need. We will give financial guidance wherever possible, but we also have a very good relationship with our third sector providers, for example, Tamworth Advice Centre, and we make referrals to them with our residents' permission. Realistic payment arrangements will be an option based on individual circumstances, but this has to be realistic as we have a duty to collect on behalf of all the residents of the borough. There are council tax discounts and exemptions available dependent on the makeup of the household. If a person is vulnerable, we invite applications for a discretionary payment. This will be based on their income and expenditure. In respect of housing, there is a discretionary housing payment process for those most in need. This too will be based on income and expenditure, and we would encourage residents who are struggling with their bills to go to our website and contact us if they wish to make an application. And as from next week, they will be able to go in the front doors of Marmion House if they have an issue as well.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Do you have a supplementary question for that, Mr. Maycock?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Dean. As we have just heard from Councillor Smith, the Council stands by its pledge under the Armed Forces Covenant, especially those injured or bereaved. There are councils across the country that have implemented policies to specifically disregard income from veterans' compensation payments and recognise that these are provided for injuries sustained during military service. Can Councillor Dean explain why this Labour Council has chosen to exercise its discretion to include these payments which are designed to support veterans with disabilities in income calculations for discretionary housing payments when it is fully within the council's ability, without a policy change, to disregard them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Baker. I am not actually aware of that, but I will take that back and I will write to you with what our position is, but I'm quite surprised by what you're saying.
Thank you very much. Oh,
Mr Mayor, with your indulgence, under Rule 4.10.10, I'd like to move a motion that this is referred back to Cabinet, and the motion is to disregard in full any income received from the Armed Forces Compensation Scheme, War Pension Scheme and Armed Forces Independence Payments in all income assessments for discretionary housing payments and other relevant discretionary financial support schemes. And I look for a member to second this motion.
you seconded the motion.
And Mr Mayor, under Rule 4.17.4, I request a name vote on this.
As you know, with now. Okay. We need 6, don't we? We need 6, don't we? 5, okay. 5, yeah. Right. Yeah, Councillor Clements, would you mind doing
Yeah, no problem at all. I think you've got a heater behind you, Councillor. Can it come this end? The motion is to disregard in full any income received from the Armed Forces Compensation Scheme, War Pension Scheme and Armed Forces Independence Payments in all income assessments for discretionary housing payments and other relevant discretionary financial support schemes. And we've obviously already seconded it.
Did you hear that? Okay, Councillor Clements. No problem, thank you.
Can we just clarify, are you asking Cabinet to make that decision?
I'm asking that it is referred to Cabinet for discussion under the motion 4.10.10. Mr Mayor, if I can just put some meat to the bones. As they've just said to me, what?
No, let's speak on the motion.
Right, okay.
Okay, so we still remember that motion, yes? So we're going to go to the name vote. We're going to go in alphabetical order. So I'm going to go Councillor Craig Adams first.
4.
Councillor Nova Arkney.
4.
Councillor Chris Bain.
4.
She's not here. Councillor Ben Clark.
4.
Councillor Lee Clark.
4.
Councillor Margaret Clark.
4.
Councillor Rosie Claymore.
4.
Councillor Tia Clements.
4.
I'm going to abstain, being mayor, so. Councillor Marion Couchman.
4.
Councillor Sarah Daniels.
4.
Councillor Carol Dean.
4.
Councillor Stephen Doyle.
4.
Councillor David Foster.
4.
Councillor Helen Hadley.
4.
Councillor Richard Kingston.
4.
Councillor Ken Norkey. 4. Okay. Councillor Jeremy Oates. 4. Councillor Pat Ballett. 4. Councillor Ben Price.
4.
Councillor Lewis Smith.
4.
Councillor Samuel Smith.
4.
Councillor Natalie Statham.
4.
Councillor Paul Turner.
4.
Councillor Janice Woodrup.
4.
Councillor Andrew Wells.
4.
And last on the list is Councillor Lee Wood.
4.
Thanking you. Yep. Yep, that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to get back to the questions. Questions member from the public under protocol rule number 10. Mr. Beetham will ask the leader, Councillor Carol Dean, the following question.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Was the leader of the council aware that the Labour Party were going to abolish district and borough councils before the general election 2024?
Councillor Carol Dean.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Beetham. I can confirm that I wasn't aware of that the white paper was going to be put forward, but the Labour manifesto does mention devolution, and we, Tamworth, as part of the Staffordshire Leaders Board, were putting a proposal forward for the devolution deal. But now, of course, government are looking at a local government reorganisation as set out in the white paper.
Mr. Beetham, do you have a supplementary question that links to your first question?
Yes. As you've just told us that the Labour government didn't consult with a democratically elected council, can you confirm that if it's your intention that when the change is forced upon us, that you as leader of the council and other elected members in this chamber will write and lobby against any delayed elections and let Tamworth residents have their democratic voice?
Councillor Carradine.
Thank you. We are not anticipating that any of our elections in Tamworth will be delayed. We know for a fact that the Staffordshire County Council elections will be going forward for the people of Tamworth. Together, we started a cross-party group yesterday to talk through the devolution and local reorganisation deal. So we will be bringing the whole council together to look at how, we're going to work on this and to make sure that everybody is involved as they can be. But the other thing that we want to do is we want to bring the residents in on this as well. And it's important for us that there's engagement with local residents about how this will affect them.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to questions now from members of the council. First one under procedure rule number 11. Councillor Jeremy Oates will ask the leader of the council, Councillor Carol Dean, the following question. Over to you, Councillor Oates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could the leader of the council inform council when they became aware that the building known as Ankerside Shopping Centre was potentially coming back under council control?
Councillor Carol Dean.
As you will know, as a cabinet member on the previous administration for our council, there's been ongoing discussions with REI over the viability of their tenancy of the centre since we were informed of a change in their structure, which was back in autumn of 2022. And then on the 16th of March 2023, the previous administration were provided with an update on the position of the arrangements we had with REI. The report outlined one of the potential options was for the lease to be surrendered to the council, and this has remained an option throughout the process. And as you will know from your many years on the councils, negotiations of this kind are fraught in many ways, not least around commercial sensitivity. However, there are many examples of updates being available to members in the exempt section of our committee papers. Following receipt of further information and proposals from REI in June 2024, it was agreed by Cabinet on the 29th of August that negotiations for the surrender of the lease would commence. And following a period of negotiation with REI, the final terms for the surrender of the lease were agreed by Cabinet on the 21st of November 2024. And during this negotiation process from August through to November, updates were presented to Cabinet. Key Cabinet members were also engaged in the process and were being updated on a regular basis. Additional meetings also took place with scrutiny chairs prior to the key decisions being made. And I hope you will agree that we are now in a better position to revitalise Ankerside, making the best use of the centre, whatever that may be, for our residents and businesses.
Thank you. Councillor Oates, do you have a supplementary question linking to your first question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to thank the leader for the comprehensive and informative answer in public, because as described, it's very often difficult to discuss things with commercial confidentiality. My supplementary question is, based on the answer given and the length of time that we have been aware of this and been dealing with this, were the Labour group all involved in consideration of the future of Ankerside when considering the reopening of the decommissioned Marmion House? We have a building with shopfront access, with reception type style access, with offices, etc., etc., coming back into council control. Was it considered when the decisions were made to reinvest in Marmion House? And the reason I raise this is as part of the reset and renewal options paper in 2001, 2021, 2022, plans were drawn up to use parts of Ankerside on a rental basis. So I was just wondering if, with the longevity of the negotiations, whether that was considered and whether all the members of the group, not just the Cabinet, were involved in those discussions when the decision was made around choosing Marmion House as opposed to the option of Ankerside, whether that was considered or not, Mr Mayor.
You got there in the end, Councillor Dean.
Thank you. I hope I can remember what the question is. I think the only thing I can say in answer to that question is our group were totally unanimous in their desire to see the front desk open in Marmion House. That is our council home at the moment, and for the foreseeable future, especially with the uncertainty of what's going to happen to local government, that it would seem a good reason for us to remain there and not to start looking for anywhere else at this present time. So our group, as I say, were totally unanimous in their support that the Marmion House was the right place.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. We're going to go to question number 2 of the Council, which is under Protocol Rule number 11. Councillor Tina Clements will ask the portfolio holder of People Services, Leisure and Engagement, Councillor Lewis Smith, the following question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It is more important than ever to celebrate our identity as a council. Each year, showcasing events take place across the county. What does this council intend to do for Staffordshire Day to celebrate Tamworth's character, history and its heritage?
Councillor Lewis Smith.
Thank you for the question. Staffordshire Day is a project led by Staffordshire County Council and their Visit Staffs team. There's not anything on their website for 2025 at the moment, and they usually set a theme. The Borough Council are not aware of this year's theme yet, so it's a little bit difficult to plan any specifics. In terms of comms, we're going to be supporting the county-wide campaign and linked to hashtag Staffordshire Day via a social media campaign. And where there are local events, we will promote these and promote Tamworth's heritage and castle in general. So plans to celebrate and promote Tamworth's history and heritage are very much focused again this year, working with partners on Athelstan 1100 from the 19th to the 27th of July 2025.
Thank you for that. My microphone sounds like a helicopter. Have you got a supplementary question, Councillor Clements, to link with that one?
No, other than to say, look out on the County Council's website because the theme is due to be released.
Thank you very much. We're going to question 3. Under Protocol Rule number 11, Councillor Tina Clements will ask portfolio holder of People Services, Leisure and Engagement, Councillor Lewis Smith, the following question.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. In a world of AI, photoshops and fake news, history can be airbrushed away. Holocaust Day is held on the 27th of January every year. This day is a reminder of the atrocities in our past and is held to stop any form of genocide from ever happening again. What is this council doing to ensure this terrible behaviour is not forgotten and never repeated? And it does say that I haven't heard any plans, but I know that a press release has gone out today.
Thank you for the other question. Tamworth Borough Council will be honouring Holocaust Memorial Day on Monday the 27th of January at 4 p.m. By lighting the castle purple on the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, which was the largest of the Nazi death camps, and 30th anniversary of the genocide in Bosnia. Stephen, the CEO, will also be laying a wreath at the Royal British Legion event on the 11 a.m. on the 27th. There's also a lot of work that's taken place across the borough, as I'm sure Councillor Kingston can confirm. Schools, not only across the borough, but the country too, are having assemblies on this very topic this week or next. I am personally delivering assemblies nearly every day this week to remember these tragic events and Holocaust/genocide denial throughout social media is something I've been really explicit in denouncing during those assemblies.
Councillor Clements, do you have a supplementary to that question?
Just to ask Councillor Smith if it remains in his portfolio that we work with community groups and we have better communication on a calendar of events, because these events happen on the same day every year, on the same date every year. We've already said about what Royal British Legion are doing, and I'm happy to work with Councillor Smith on giving you the events that we're already planned for this year, because our events calendar has to go in January. We need to make sure that Tamworth is placed on the map and it stays on the map for all the right reasons.
Yeah, I just want to say that I completely agree with you, and I'm really happy to work with you going forward on this.
Thank you very much. We're going to question number 4 under procedure rule number 11. Councillor Paul Turner will ask the leader, Councillor Carol Dean, the following question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Considering that National Pothole Day was the 15th of January, will the Leader of the Council join me in congratulating our diligent county councillors for their hard work, dedication in getting the repairs to our roads done? Thank you.
Councillor Carol Dean.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Turner. I do have different words for the question that was sent to me, and it says getting our roads fixed, which is what I've answered to. So thank you for your question, but I have to say I had to read your question several times to make sure what it was asking me. I always try and give credit where it's due. However, in this instance, while the Tory County Councillors may have done their best, I don't consider that we can describe the roads of Tamworth as fixed. And I'm sure there aren't many people who would. We all know that our roads are in a terrible state. So no, I can't actually congratulate anyone with regard to the state of the roads. And I think our residents would be amazed if I did. This weekend, I was out campaigning with a petition about the potholes. And whilst everyone may not have been a Labour supporter, they were more than happy to sign the petition and tell us how appalled they are by the state of the roads. Also, to tell us how fed up they are with this situation. We get it all the time. I heard many stories about damage to vehicles and concerns over their safety, especially in the dark and wet weather when they hit a pothole. And there was also a lot of talk about some work that has been done and whether it's appropriate work that's getting done. One of those is Peeler's Way being resurfaced again, and whether that's a good use of resource. Because our residents who speak to us and come to our surgeries want to see their local roads done. So together with my fellow Bowlehall councillors, we've asked several times that the roads on our estates be repaired, but are simply told by the county council that they don't have the funds. I would say that any work that has been done has not made an impact on our residents, and they are still very angry about the state of the Tamworth roads. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Turner, do you have a supplementary linking to your first question?
Yes, I do. Thank you for that reply. It was basically, my question was geared at Coat Lane has been recently completely resurfaced, repaired from top to bottom. And as you know, we're about to start Litchfield Street, Gungate, Comerford Road. And it's aimed at, with the recent closure of Coat Lane, I heard many conversations of the complete and utter traffic congestion that caused lots and lots of problems, lots of inconvenience, not only to residents, but also to businesses. So,
Mr Mayor, can I give a point of information? Coton Lane has not been resurfaced from top to bottom. It's been resurfaced from Coton Lane to the end of Fontenay Road.
Carry on, Councillor Turner. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Would the council leader then outline what lessons have been learned in regard to communicating this strategy, as we are aware of the list of works in hand by county for all our roads in the town, and when they're likely to be done, and what is the programme of works? And the reason I ask this question is that to inform residents about the traffic congestion and road closures whilst the potholes and the repairs are being done is only common decency, so that we can plan our routes, we can organise traffic movements, and specifically how the council can ensure timely and effective communications to minimise inconvenience to the residents and the businesses to make their plans. I ask this question to address to the need for clear, proactive communications, which is crucial in maintaining public trust and minimising disruptions.
Councillor Dean.
Thank you for that, and I think everyone will know that communications is one of the things that our group have been, I don't like to use the phrase banging on about since we've been here, but it's one of those issues that we are really, really concerned about and want to make sure that we get that right. We've found in quite a few areas that people don't feel fully informed, so we are doing that piece of work, and it's in our corporate peer review about how we make better communications. It's the one thing that makes the difference to our residents. We know it is. They need to know what's going on, and there was a very definite learning opportunity from what happened a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't good for anybody.
Thank you for that. Just before we move on to the next question, I just want to make it clear, if you're going to speak up, use point of order and make sure you quote the Constitution. I don't want to be like a school teacher and tell people what to do. I try to have a laid-back meeting, but, please read the Constitution and make sure if you're going to call something out, make sure you can quote the Constitution number that you are quoting on, please. Let's try and have a bit more respect in the room. So going to question number 5, under procedure rule number 11, Councillor Richard Kingston will ask the leader, Councillor Carol Dean, the following question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When the Dunstall Park development was approved a few years back, a condition, and there were lots of conditions, number 23 in particular, and this condition was applied that required the improvement works to Ventura Park Road and the A453 / Hints Watling Street Junction, what we know as the Mile Oak Crossroads. The condition stated that, and I'm not going to read it word for word, what it actually says, but to summarise, that plans for road improvement works should be submitted and constructed before any of the properties relating to the Dunstall Park estate are to be occupied. In a nutshell, this should have involved a left-hand filter lane being constructed at the Mile Oak Crossroads. We're now some 7 to 8 years on since this application was approved, and the development has seen properties occupied for 4 to 5 years, but with no infrastructure improvements. What are the leaders' views on this apparent breach of planning conditions? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carol Dean.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston, for your question. The original full application is 0308/2016. Application 0080/2020 was submitted to discharge the condition relating to highway improvement works, which was formally signed off on the 9th of July 2020. To be able to sign off the condition, Staffordshire County Council Highways were consulted as the Highways Authority and were satisfied with the plans received from the developer. The planning team have been chasing Staffordshire Highways following a request from yourself prior to Christmas on this matter and have yet to receive a response. The planning team will continue to chase and provide a response when available. And on a personal level, I can understand everyone's frustration when such conditions appear to be breached. I'm going to personally ask the officers to keep me informed about when this response comes in, and if needed, I'm quite happy to raise this matter with the leader of Staffordshire County Council.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kingston, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Dean. A great response, the sort of thing that I was looking for. because it's been some 2 months now that I've been chasing with our planning department a response to this question about the infrastructure improvements. And I know our planning department have been pressuring Staffordshire County Council and the highways team for a response, with nothing, absolute silence from what I understand from our planning officers coming back. We're going to see more developments across the town, and it really concerns me that we've got to a position where a development the size of the Dunstall Park estate has been allowed to progress without enforcement of these conditions. We've all seen in recent weeks, and I drove through the other day coming back from Good Hope Hospital during the middle of the day, the queues of traffic approaching the Marlow Crossroads that now run down towards the garden centre and sometimes beyond at weekends. So it's clear that our house building programme is having an input on our infrastructure. So as well as chasing this, can the leader ensure that Staffordshire County Council is, what's the appropriate word, pressurised into ensuring that enforcement action is taken to ensure that any development in the future that we see coming before us has the proper infrastructure improvements carried out? I know we get them attached as conditions, but what concerns me is how many developments have we seen go ahead without those infrastructure improvements. You know, we see them as a condition on the application, and then 5, 6, 7 years pass and does nothing happen? In this case, it would appear so. So can we have some assurance that you will task our planning team, and I know they're under a great deal of pressure and they do a fantastic job, but can we have some pressure applied to chase these conditions to ensure that they actually go through? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Cardine.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. Yes, I'm quite happy to take that task on, and I'm aware of the issues that have come to light around the other estates, the new estates. So we have quite a big problem here. As you will know, we are now at the point where we're saying no more in Tamworth. We just can't have anything else built that is going to put a strain on our infrastructure. So we need to make sure that these conditions that were there are brought forward, because that's only right for the people who live. Well, it's only right for all of us because it impacts on all of us. It took me 2 hours to get out of Tamworth the other morning.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to question number 6, which is Councillor Samuel Smith. Well, that's the portfolio holder of Housing, Homelessness and Planning. Councillor Ben Clark, the following question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's approaching a year since the independent review of leaseholder charges was released, which revealed instances of incompetence and poor customer service by the council. Since taking control of the council last year, could the portfolio holder update members on any actions taken or implemented within the council to address these issues? Additionally, have any personnel within the assets department been held accountable or received additional training? Addressing these concerns is vital for rebuilding trust with leaseholders and ensuring that such shortcomings are not repeated. Thank you.
Councillor Ben Smith. Ben Clark, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Smith. On the 9th of October 2024, Corporate Scrutiny received a report to update on a review of leaseholder charging, which was subsequently considered by Cabinet on the 10th of October last year. Since this time, the Council has undertaken a number of improvements arising from this review and relating to leaseholder service charges, including a revised suite of letters that have been produced for the consultation process, a draft policy that has been produced and is being finalised, ready for implementation and publication. The finance team has confirmed payment T's and C's. Final costings for roofing works that form part of the review have been agreed. Stage 3 consultations have begun for those roofing works included as part of the review process. And stock condition survey work is progressing to remove the use of cloned data in development of future programmed works. In addition to the above, as part of the Council's overall approach to continuous improvement, the Council is undertaking a service transformation exercise relating to the full range of services included in the assets area. Consideration has also been given to the level of staffing resource available in relevant service areas, with consideration currently being given to potential additional investment in these services as part of budget proposals. Just finally, in relation to the request to identify if personnel within the Assets Department have been held accountable, I don't believe that it is appropriate to provide details of the management of individual team members, either directly or implicitly, so I will not be responding to that part of the question.
Thank you very much. Have you got a supplementary question linking to the first one?
Yes, I do, thank you. Thank you for the answer. One thing to mention on that is, although in autumn last year, the draft, the report by the independent consultants came to Cabinet, it is worth bearing in mind for all members that first draft went to officers in April last year, so they've had it almost a year, and that draft, that first version draft, has not changed since to its publication at Cabinet as well. I do think that you've not really addressed in terms of who has been accountable. I'm certainly not asking for any names, but I do think it's pertinent to mention any specific information around that on any other points as well. I do think it's really important that we recognise that there's a growing perception, particularly Labour politicians actually, often refrain from holding public sector bodies to account. As elected councillors, our residents expect us to ensure that officers are responsible for their actions. You mentioned at last year's scrutiny committee that we trust our officers. While we certainly aim to trust the intentions of the council and its staff, it's crucial for us to address issues proactively. If we don't call out problems when they arise, we risk failing in our duties to those that we represent. Given the time gone since the independent review, could you elaborate on how you are upholding accountability in this matter and ensure that trust is justified? Thank you.
Councillor Benclark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'm meeting every day with officers, and all business that we go through is available to scrutinise, which I would invite you to do if you feel the need. As I've said before, I said at previous cabinets, I have faith and trust in the officers that they deliver good work, but that doesn't mean that we can't be scrutinised further. So if there's something that you think is worth scrutinising, bring it to the committee, and we're happy to attend.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to question number 7, which is Councillor Samuel Smith. We'll ask the portfolio holder of Corporation Council, Community Partnerships and ASB, Councillor Sarah Daniels, the following question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given significant increase in funding for our council from the Asylum Dispersal Grant, where contingency accommodation funding has risen from £1,007 to £50 in 23-24 to £182,000 in 24-25, which is an increase of £74,750, and with the new dispersed accommodation funding of £21,000 for the 24-25 year, resulting in a total funding increase of £95,750, can the council assure us that this increase in funding will not lead to the neglect or reduction of resources and provisions for our existing homeless population who are not categorised as asylum cases? What measures are being taken to ensure that the needs of all vulnerable residents are fully met and that support for existing homelessness services is maintained or enhanced alongside our commitments under the Asylum Dispersal Scheme?
Thank you very much. Councillor Sarah Daniels.
Thank you for your question, and to echo what Councillor Clark said, we Labour Group, we do recognise scrutiny, the importance of it, and Mr. Mayor, yes, as teachers like telling people what to do, but we also believe in the importance of evaluation. So genuinely thank you for this question, because you're not the first person who's going to ask it. I know from social media it's a key concern, and at our residents meeting last night, Councillor Dean and Councillor Norkie and I know that was the question that got raised, so thank you for giving the opportunity to have residents' voices heard. Tamworth Borough Council has been granted funding under our obligation to support asylum dispersal under the Immigration and Asylum Act of 1999, which was amended to a full dispersal model introduced for local authorities on the 13th of April 2022. This asylum dispersal funding is specifically designed to alleviate any pressure on local services and support community cohesion initiatives granted to councils as a wraparound fund for community support, activities, volunteer opportunities, whilst in contingency or dispersed accommodation. Housing advice and personal housing plan can be offered on receipt of a positive decision, as it is with any other person who may be at risk of homelessness, and the funding, if required, can be used to enhance capacity within homelessness support to ensure that this does not have a negative impact on the existing housing register or current officer caseloads. Like Councillor Clark, work regularly with my portfolio holder. She's working with her team to explore linking to housing, what the issues are within Tamworth, and the first port of call is what we might call existing cases. It's the intention of the Home Office to put in processes to move asylum seekers from contingency accommodation to dispersed accommodation prior to receipt of a decision. However, this may not always be possible. The grant funding is enabled and will enable the Council to fund additional staff as necessary, put in processes to ensure that the service users can access housing advice where necessary through existing channels, and provide support where they are within the Tamworth community. Any asylum seeker who receives a right to stay is permitted to seek advice and will be advised in the same way as any other resident. There is no automatic right to accommodation allocation for a priority need over and above any other person, with each case being individually assessed. And with that in mind, I'd just like to take that opportunity to remind everyone of how Tamworth Borough Council can help people who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. We have our website, tamworth.gov.uk, with its own homelessness page that states, "We have a duty to help people who are homeless." And in line with legal definitions, if you are at homeless or at risk of becoming homeless, you're encouraged to get in touch with us straight away to see how we might be able to help you. There is a form, there is the website, like I said, there's our phone number, and indeed out of hours, if you have nowhere to stay immediately and the offices are closed, you can seek advice by calling this number on our website, Tamworth 709 709, selecting option 1. We also offer supported accommodation to current residents who need somewhere to live or extra help through time of crisis, who also, additional to just accommodation, can offer support with claiming benefits, resolving debt issues, etc. Finally, Councillor Smith, I note that your question began with the word asylum, and I think it's amazing that we have former Conservative Councillor Daniel Maycock in the House tonight, because when the war broke out in the Ukraine, you and former Conservative and Tamworth Independent Future Councillor Daniel Cook took that really dangerous journey across because you knew that you could help, and that maybe with your past military background that you had a duty to serve. And then when people had to come from the Ukraine as asylum seekers, I know you're instrumental in making sure that Tamworth could welcome them effectively. I'd like to thank some of my Labour councillors who, like me, have supported Tamworth CIC and St Editha's Church in supporting different initiatives, so that if you reside in Tamworth, you are working with us, understanding our values and way of life. Going back to the start of your question, it's designed to support our residents in understanding what the kind of issue is and how people are helped. I think it's another way in which we all serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Samuel Smith, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for that precise answer, and thank you also for publicising the various contact methods for those obviously in vulnerable situations. I do agree we should do as much as we can to ensure that is advertised, and also I share also in complimenting Councillor Maycock and Cook also for their help and support with Ukrainian refugees. I just want to also mention, I believe it's important to mention, the potential ripple effects of the asylum dispersal grant on housing affordability. May I inquire if you are aware of any current or future increases in private rental costs within our community as a result of this particular grant?
Councillor Daniels.
I promise this is a shorter answer. At this exact time, no, but it's my duty of care to make sure I find out the answer to that, and I will contact you directly, Councillor Smith. Thank you for asking it.
Thank you. That's question time done. We're going to move to agenda item 6, which is a motion on notice. So it's to consider the following motion, notice of which has been duly given in accordance with Procedure Rule 4.12.1 by Councillor Oates, Samuel Smith, Jay, Summers and Clements. I'm going to hand over to Councillor Oates.
Mr Mayor, before we begin this item, under Rule 4.23.1, I would like to move the suspension of Rule 4.14.5. For those who aren't in favour of those numbers, the second one restricts us from speaking more than once. So for the duration of this item, I would like to move that members have the opportunity to speak more than once on this item, and I'll seek for a seconder.
Happy to second that, Mr Mayor.
Okay, so the mover is Councillor Oates, second is Councillor Clements, and that is to remove basically 4.14.5, which basically means the members can speak more than once on this. Well, it's for this meeting actually, it's not the item. So we're going to have to go for a vote. Those in favour of this, please raise your hands. Okay, what we 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, those against, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, yep. Unfortunately, that was lost, so we're going to stick with the motion. So I'm still going to hand over to you, Councillor Oates, to put the motion forward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The intention of this motion was to get a conversation going, and particularly a conversation in public. As the leader already alluded to in one of the answers earlier on this evening, meetings have happened and, you know, things are at a pace, including last night's discussion and cross-party group looking at the government white paper regards devolution and local government reorganisation. So, Mr Mayor, what I would like to do this evening is move the 3 motions that we have given notice for, and that is that Tamworth Borough Council objects to the proposals and reaffirms its importance to local service delivery and democracy, that we ask the MP to both condemn and oppose these changes in the House of Commons, and that we consider transferring local cultural, historical, community and recreational facilities to local parish councils. Mr Mayor, I'm aware of the political balance of the room, and I'm aware that not everyone shares the same feelings about these motions, but this is about generating that discussion. So if I may, for those members of the public at the back of the room and for those watching online, this is a very complex picture and a very complex white paper that came out of government, and so is the advice and guidance that's being given. In a nutshell, Tamworth Borough Council will come to an end in the near future, so will Staffordshire County Council, and a new governance model will be put in place. At the same time as that's running, there will be some sort of strategic authority, and the preferred option that the governments are pushing at the moment is through an elected mayoral approach. That's going to happen. I object to Tamworth Borough Council going, but if that's going to happen, we need to make sure we're aware of what the implications are for Tamworth. So for me, standing here, unlike some of my colleagues elsewhere in the country, this is not about saving Tamworth Borough Council. This is about saving Tamworth, its character, its history, its people, its services, its local assets. So what I'm looking for tonight, Mr Mayor, is a discussion as to what we feel are important and what we feel we should be looking at securing. I say we collectively, because with the exception of the principal approach that parties may take, this is about the outcomes for the people of Tamworth. So I'm hoping we can park a lot of the politics at the door. We can visualise some of this, Mr Mayor. We can visualise this and forget all the financial stability of councils and the cost effectiveness and all that. That's for a different group on a different day. This is about the visual things that make a difference. Mr Mayor, a number of years ago I was privileged enough to sit where you're sitting now, and I was privileged enough to wear that chain of office. That chain of office and the badge, as you know, were donated to the borough in 1898. We both know this because I confirmed the date as the mayor walked in earlier. And Mr Muntz, the MP at the time, was the guy that donated that piece of regalia. what will happen to that when Tamworth Borough Council goes? And I'm not talking about what will happen to it as it's got a monetary value because it's gold or not. I'm talking about the symbolism of the head of Tamworth, of the position of state, the position of civic lead, and that sort of cultural history and heritage that that badge represents. You will know, Mr. Mayor, if you walk through the town wearing that badge, people will say hello to you. You've probably never seen you before in their lives, but they recognise you as the Mayor of Tamworth. And that sort of character and localism is what I'm talking about. We have many different bits of history in Tamworth. We have the Wigginton Lodge. We still have ownership and involvement in Wigginton Lodge. That was the home of two pioneering surgeons who pioneered a lot of work in regards to women's health. We need to celebrate that history. And as we know, we're talking about politics, we're talking about local democracy. Peel and the Tamworth Manifesto, allegedly delivered from these windows here. These sorts of stories are things that can quite easily be lost under a local government reorganisation. So for me, it's about what can we do to save Tamworth, its character, its history, its people, its communities, its assets, and look after those in a larger, different world of local government in the future. So tonight, Mr. Mayor, I did email all the councillors with a better version of what I've just rambled through, and I'm hoping for a good discussion about what we see as important and possibly how we see those important things can be protected for the future, Mr. Mayor. So with that, as I say, motion A, the objection to the proposals and reaffirm the importance of local service delivery. For me, Tamworth Borough Council is best placed to deliver local services, and so I'd like it protecting. Item B, ask the MP to both condemn and oppose these changes in the House of Commons. We've already heard that in the Labour manifesto, devolution was discussed, but local government reorganisation wasn't, and that's why we're proposing that second one. And C, about transferring local cultural, historical, community, recreational facilities to a local parish. I'm happy to say, or equivalent. This is about starting the conversation. This is not the end game. Because what I would hate to do is go into this being ill-prepared. And it's fine having a working party looking at it, but it's about that broader discussion. It's also about that engagement with the public as to what they feel is important. Mr. Mayor, I've rambled on enough, and I'd like to hear other people's opinions on some of those things. So I move those, Mr. Mayor, and look for a seconder.
Do we have a seconder? Oh, straight away, Councillor Turner, thank you very much. So as we've got a mover and a seconder, I'm going to open it up, seeing if anyone wishes to speak. What I'll do, just remember, we voted against it, so you get the option to speak once and a maximum of 10 minutes. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this motion? Oh, Councillor Clements, thank you.
I'll go first and get it all out of the way, then nobody else will have anything to say, hopefully. What I agree with what Councillor Jerry Motes has just said, and we don't normally agree, so that's a first. We've both been mayor of this town, and what I like about Tamworth, from where I grew up in Sutton Coldfield, is that Tamworth is very patriotic. We love all the pomp and circumstance of the Mayor's Sunday, walking through the town and everybody recognising instantly who you are. Like Jeremy's just said, they might not know your name, but they will always say, good morning, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor, and you're instantly recognised. I would hate for the regalia to just be lost, for somebody in Stoke-on-Trent to ponk it in a box and it never be seen again. It belongs to the people of Tamworth, and that's where it should stay. But there's a bigger picture. If we lose Tamworth's identity, we've got our own assembly rooms. This town hall that we stand in, just look around you, just look at the history and heritage that surrounds us. If we lose this as an asset to this town, where will all the stuff that go, where will it all go? What happens to all the silver and the gifts that we've received from our twin towns of Azures and Bad Lasfer? Does it all just get archived and never to be seen again, collecting dust somewhere in a garage? Or we need to have these open discussions and protect what Tamworth is about, and that's about the people that live here and the people that we represent. And I think we have to have those honest conversations and put the politics to one side, because this is about all of us, because we all live here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clement. I've got Councillor Claymore that would like to speak now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've looked around the room here and I think we probably have 7 past mayors in this room. Sorry, 7 past mayors in this room. And it's not just about, it's nothing to do with politics here. Can you imagine with those 7 mayors and all the other mayors that have gone before, one of which I am, all the charities that have benefited, not only monetarily, but by having their charities highlighted by the mayor and the civic seat. I think it would be a great shame if we lost that. It's important to me. The morality is important to me, and I'm sure to all the past mayors it's very important. I know when the Labour Party considered opening Marmion House, one of the things they were very adamant about was saying that they wanted to bring the town hall back into the heritage of this city, of this town. If we don't maintain that here, we will lose it, and we will lose it forever. And I think that would be a very sad day. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Claymore. Is there anyone that else wishes? Oh, Councillor Samuel Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few comments. I think one thing that's really important is that we as councillors and our titles, our positions, I would hope that most of us, we don't necessarily care about it. We don't necessarily care about the pomp around the council. We only care about the value that we can bring. We've got a vessel, we've got a way of making a difference to those residents' lives. So I think that's really, really important. Certainly for the public that may be looking in on this. A lot of talk about devolution. Actually, in many aspects, it's more centralisation. It's away from local issues. Yes, we've got the potential implementation of mayors, but actually, much of this is to centralise more of the decision making. We're aware of what our value is and what we can do, particularly in many of the issues in Tamworth. The key, what has been raised already, is the heritage aspect. It's our unique selling point in Tamworth, and we know the history of Tamworth better than anyone else. And I just think that we should consider what access we have as local councillors at this level, and we want to try and keep it and have that opportunity to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Does anyone else want to speak on the motion? Oh, Councillor Paul Turner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think, to be honest, from a new councillor, really, this is an ideal opportunity of hope. We have our heritage. We have this opportunity to make sure the heritage is looked at, taken care of, understood, and beloved for the people that we pass it on to. So again, I think Councillor Oates has done a really good job tonight and bringing this item to all our attentions. It is going to take all our brains, it is going to take all our energies to find out the best way forward to protect our lovely castle, the castle grounds, this beautiful building, but also other things that we can't see here tonight. We've got our treasures around your neck, Mr. Mayor, but it is about the place. But it's also a fantastic opportunity for all of us to put our heads together and our thinking caps on to make our environment right for our future Tamworthians. So I would pledge and support my colleagues here to say, let's get round the table, let's understand the opportunities, the threats, the weaknesses, so we can go forward with an open mind on this, but we have to do it quickly. We've only got till 2028, so there's less than 4 years. So procrastination, delay, and not moving at a pace could risk those fantastic assets in our heritage. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Turner. Okay, still looking around the room. Have we got any more speakers on this motion? Oh, Councillor Carradine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to address the points that you've put in your motion, but begin by saying thank you for bringing this to the council for discussion, because I'm aware that a lot of our residents are confused by what they're reading. They don't understand what this will mean to them. And I think that we as their representatives must make sure that we don't make political statements that make people nervous about the new system. And that was why it was really good to have so many people in the group yesterday, all looking at what was the best for our town and committed to working together on the proposals. And we all understand that it's vital that we have good communication with the public as we go forward. It's going to be a bumpy ride, I think, but we need to make sure that it's only a bumpy ride for us and not for the people that we serve. The item 1 said then that the Tamworth Borough Council objects to the proposals. I can't object to these proposals. They're Labour Party policy and they're being put in place to simplify local government. And we sitting in this chamber all know that our residents are often confused over the various levels of council. With regard to point B, I don't consider it's my place to ask the MP to condemn and oppose these changes, because as I state, it's Labour Party policy. With regard to point C, which the wording here is about local parish councils, I feel the introduction of parish councils, something that we in Tamworth haven't felt the need to do before, would be a distraction at this time. The work around bringing together a unitary council will take a lot of member and officer time, and instead of simplifying the layers of local government, it would add another layer of bureaucracy. It would take a huge resource to decide the areas for these parish councils, and there'd be additional costs. But where the mood seems to have moved on around our assets, that's a completely different thing. So with regard to the town's historic and cultural assets, we all want to see our unique heritage protected. And I am aware that there is a lot of work already going on. The MP is involved with a lot of different organisations and seeking to bring something together to help us with this. Our councillors, many of our councillors have got a real passion about this, and our officers are also doing a lot of work to see how the protection of all our assets and how they then serve the people, because that's what we need them to do. We need those assets to be here for the people, but also to serve them. So everyone is looking to see how that can best be achieved.
Thank you very much. We've got Councillor Richard Kingston now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When this white paper came back out in December, I downloaded it and printed it off and attempted to trawl through it. It's quite a long and wordy document and very difficult to understand. However, at first I did what a lot of people would do and threw my hands in the air and I went, no, 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 no. And then I thought about it. And I took some time to actually look at the document and talk to people and attended the meeting we had last night and spoke to some more people today and have done some more reading around it. And when you actually look at that document, some of it does make a lot of sense. You know, when you think about what does Tamworth Borough Council actually do? Well, it's got the castle, as we've just said, and the town hall and everything like that. It's also got a wonderful division that looks after housing, which is separate to the main duties of the council. It's sort of like the, what do we call the financial side of it, the housing revenue account. So that's sort of like protected. And whatever goes on in the future, no doubt there will be some system in place to protect the housing assets. So then you look at, you know, we've got the heritage side in, we've got the thing. What do? We cut grass and we empty bins. We probably do a little bit more than that, but at its most basic, the resident in the street sees this council as something that cuts grass and empties bins. Yes, I might be trivialising it a little bit, but that's the public perception. Moving forwards, wouldn't it be better if we tried to put everything under one sort of banner? Now, I don't know yet whether that would be better. I'm still thinking and still deciding, but I'm open to the proposals, or some of the proposals in the white paper about streamlining some of the processes. How frustrating do we all feel when, let's say, a pothole crops up? We've got to go on, we've got to report it to Staffordshire County Council, we've got to wait ages, we don't know who to speak to, apart from the county councillor, and then we end up, you know, putting it on again and telling residents to keep it. It's a nightmare. If it was all under one group with one set of elected representatives, perhaps that might be a better way forward. I'm saying perhaps because I'm still in that, you know, unsure stage at the moment. Local democracy is important. Residents need to feel represented. They need to feel that they have their say. In the white paper, when you look at it, we're talking a region of 500,000 people. That's terrifying when you consider Tamworth's, what, 70, 80,000. So we go from this tiny, and let's face it, we are a tiny little town. I heard Margaret cough then. I don't know whether that was don't you dare say anything any inappropriate. We are this tiny little entity, but if we join forces with other entities, tiny little entities like Burton and Lichfield or whoever it happens to be, then perhaps that tiny little entity can have more say and more oomph, and we can better represent our people. Nobody's saying we won't have elected representatives in this white paper. There's reference to elected representatives in there. So people will still have that ability to go to the ballot box and choose the person to represent them. In fact, there will probably be more people representing them. Because to have a council, or whatever it becomes, of 500,000 people, is going to require more than 30 people to do it. So you're going to end up with more elected representatives with that combined, dare I say it, brain power, working together for the benefit of the people. I suppose from my initial no, I'm now thinking maybe. And the important thing that we need to do as a group is to get the message out that this isn't something we should fear, this is something that we should shape into what we want it to be for the people of Tamworth. The various things here. I think it might be wrong to oppose at this stage because we need more information. Bottom line, we haven't got a lot. We've got the white paper and a few conversations and telephone calls. With regards to B, ask the MP to condemn and oppose. You pointed out it's not down to us to impose restrictions on the MP. It's up to the MP to decide what she wants to do for the people of Tamworth. Consider transferring local cultural, historical, community and recreational facilities to local parish councils. When I saw that, and again I'm not being frivolous, all I could think of was no, yes. You know, the Vicar of Dibley type setup. And that's no disrespect to parish councils before anybody puts in a complaint against me. What I'm trying to point out is a parish council just going to be a replacement for this chamber? Probably. When you actually look at the white paper, it makes reference to transfer of heritage and cultural assets to an organisation or body. It makes reference to civic organisations and heritage organisations. There's an opportunity here to make, and I forget how our chief executive referred to it in one briefing, was it to make the assembly rooms wipe its nose? I used the wrong word there on purpose. But you get what I'm saying. These buildings, like the assembly rooms, have got to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. We can't subsidise the assembly rooms. The castle has to stand on its own 2 feet. Well, I don't think it ever will because of the age of it. So we have to rely on sources of income from the likes of the town hall and the other assets that we've got down in Wigginton Park and the rugby club and everything else we've got around the town to generate the income to support. And surely transferring those assets into an entity, whatever that entity is, to manage our culture, our civic traditions, the marches, the mayor, all this sort of stuff, would be better than a parish council, which obviously you'd have to attract a stipend on top of our already increasing council tax. So to summarise, at this stage, I can't support this motion. I think we need to wait. It's great to start the discussion, but let's wait until we have more detail and information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. It was only 8 minutes you did, you still had 2 left. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this motion? Okay, if not, I'm going to do the right to apply, isn't it? Yeah, right to apply to Councillor Oates. And over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, interesting few points. I would like to have heard more thoughts and input. I think, particularly the last speaker, I think it shows we do need to have a broader conversation rather than a couple of speeches at a meeting. There are many things I could respond to on that and say, well, actually, my understanding is this or my experience is this, but we need that conversation. And I'm not sure that full council is necessarily the right forum to do that, but at least we've started it. The thing with full council is it's in public, so the public can see and try and get to grips with the same things as we're trying to get to grips with. In terms of the Vicar of Dibley reference, now I fully get that. I've had the fortune of sitting on a parish council. The one I sat on was a small parish council, and did look at bins and grass cutting and the real local issues. However, if you look at some of the other parish councils we see around the country, Newquay, for example, under the unitarisation of Cornwall, went from 2 members of staff to 80 members of staff, and now successfully runs leisure centres, assets like the assembly rooms and so on and so forth. Uttoxeter Parish Council also runs significant assets. So I think the difficulty we have in Tamworth when we come to discuss parishes as an option is because we're an unparished area, there isn't a massive amount of experience in the room as to the variety and the different levels that you see at different parishes across the country. So that clouds the issue. In terms of the points about representation, there is no way there will be as many councillors or elected members under a new governance structure as there is now. And that may well be good. Staffordshire elects probably somewhere in the region of 300 elected members across the different districts and Stoke and the county. You know, that's likely to reduce to probably about 100. So, you know, instantly we slash 200 politicians out. And some people may think that's a cracking idea. Some people in this room may think it's a cracking idea. So in terms of representation, it's the elector per elected member ratio that interests me. And what I know from sitting on other authorities, like the county, is the representation as described by the previous speaker. It's not just representation, it becomes more and more competitive. In this room, I've got 29 people shouting for their patches against my patch. When I go to county, there's 60 odd shouting for their patches as against my argument for my patch. So it becomes more and more competitive and more difficult to get your area represented when you're in when there's more people fighting against you. Of course, not everyone fights against me. Do they, Paul?
Well, occasionally.
Thank you, mate.
Have a day off.
So there are a lot of things that we can discuss further, and I think we need to have those discussions. We need to be aware that the detail is very, very minimal. Sketch is a cracking word. We need to look at assets. We need to look at opportunities for assets. We need to look at those transfers to other bodies, heritage to heritage groups. We need to ensure we do the due diligence on those. And that's no offence to any heritage group, I'm using those as an example right now, but voluntary groups need to be robust and need to guarantee a future, guarantees and warranties, because otherwise the asset gets transferred to the new unitary and you end up with the problem we've got now, maybe just resurfacing in 15 years, 20 years or whatever. And that's the difficulty with some voluntary groups. I say some because we've got some cracking voluntary groups in Tamworth which can provide those guarantees and warranties. It's about those options. Unforeseen consequences. I'm not going down that line, Paul. The big discussion we need to have is not about the existence of Tamworth Borough Council. It's not about the recreation of Tamworth Borough Council under another guise, such as recreate the parish the borough as a parish. It's about those things that we feel important to us. It's about saving Tamworth, its heritage, its culture, its people. It's about opportunity. It's about the environment. It's about all those things that I fear, and it's a personal fear, get lost when you're talking on a broader scale. As I've mentioned, I sit on another authority. I sit on the planning committee for Staffordshire County Council. And we sit there and consider planning applications. And what I do in my preparation is I get the papers, I go onto Google Maps, and search the name of these villages. And we're looking at massive quarries in people's back gardens. And they're an hour's drive away from here. And that's what you get when you get big local government, is you get a dislocation between local representation and local understanding. And you get somebody like me making a decision on a quarry in somewhere like Stone. It's odd. I don't understand the area, but it's up to me to make that decision. So those are the sorts of things that we need to be interested in. And that's the reason for recommendation 1 and that local representation. I'm going to leave it there, Mr. Mayor. We've started a good discussion. The motions are on the table. They've been proposed and seconded. Hand back over to yourself. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you for everyone taking the time to speak on that. There's a lot of passion for the Mayor in that, so I'm looking forward to see a bit more of an uplift in my Mayor events now, actually. So just before we go to the votes, so everyone's clear of the motion. So those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. Those against the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. Any abstentions? Okay, the motion was lost. So we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is motion on notice to consider the following motion notice, which has been duly given in accordance with procedure rule 4.12.1 by Councillor Oates, Samuel Smith, Councillor Jay, Summers and Councillor Clements. I'm going to hand over to Councillor Oates, who's going to put forward the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You will know we've brought this item to discussion before, as have many others. So the motion is simply the Council requests Cabinet to review the decision re Marmion House following the announcement of the abolition of district and borough councils, and further spending on the now temporary home of the doomed Tamworth Borough Council and its reception at Marmion House should be halted, as this decision aligns with the government's devolution paper, which signals the end of district councils. I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, do we have a seconder? No, Councillor Turner, so I've got a mover and a seconder. We're going to go and see if anyone wants to speak. Just to remind you again that you can speak once and you get a maximum of 10 minutes. Who would like to start the chat? Oh, Councillor Lewis Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. God, I think it's mine, the helicopter. Yeah, my bad. Oh, is it? Right, my bad. Okay. As I've said in previous meetings, the Tourist Information Centre is not fit for purpose to be more than what the Tourist Information Centre was originally designed to do. So that is what was used as the front desk for quite a while. Okay, it was the previous administration that attempted to get funding for a new council building on Upper Gungate, but it failed. Earlier in the year, this administration, was asked to look into the purchasing of the Moorgate facility. There we go, can get my words out. Despite the fact that it was an area the previous administration had looked at moving the council to, and it was deemed too expensive to complete. The previous administration had looked at opening an office in Ankerside, and it was also deemed too expensive to complete. I must admit, I'm a little bit confused because earlier a question was asked in the meeting about considering whether we considered moving the council to Ankerside when we know, when yourselves know the cost to move there would be in the hundreds of thousands, if not more. With Marmion House, the front desk, we are opening a much needed and wanted front-facing customer service desk next week to provide for the residents in Tamworth. You're all welcome to attend that opening ceremony, by the way. It's at 5 p.m. for the next council meeting. We have also been previously accused of being reckless with taxpayers' money with this decision, and I completely disagree with that. We are making use of an already owned asset, which is costing the council less than $100,000 to fix it back up, as it's been left to rot. The running costs of the front desk will also only be £56,000 per year with the current opening hours. Marmion House, regardless of your thoughts on it, is not going anywhere soon. The devolution deal is not going to take place for a long time yet within Staffordshire, and we will not let the town be without proper accessible customer service. In my opinion, the cost is more than worth it, especially when it's so low in comparison with other options.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lewis Smith. I've got Councillor Natalie Statham now.
Are you breaking?
I'm not breaking them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to congratulate Councillor Smith and all the officers on work that they've done on this. I echo what our leader has said earlier. This was a unanimous decision that we all wanted to do prior to the election. We all made this decision together. So again, none of us have been whipped. But I just don't know how many times we have to have this conversation in here. In both my role as a councillor and in my day job working for RMP, I constantly hear the struggles that residents are facing accessing council services. And I'm well aware that, you know, the website's there, the phone number's there, but so many people require those face-to-face services. Even I prefer face-to-face services because it's just easier. I prefer that human touch. I just don't understand the opposition to this. I understand there's been so much debate for years over the location, but we've already said we're already using Marmion House. It's happened. The refurbishment has happened. We need to now focus on the fact that we can provide better services for residents. That is what this is about. This isn't political. This is about providing better services to residents, and this was the best option to do that. So I appreciate that the opposition has brought this forward yet again, but we need to move on and we need to realise that this is needed. I cannot tell you how many times I've got residents in so much distress because they can't access services, and this is going to solve that. Only this week I've seen multiple people walking up to the front desk, walking up to the doors. So many of us have seen that, residents walking up to those doors and them not opening. People don't realise that that building isn't for use, and the opposition have said previously, oh, it's all fine, people go to the assembly rooms. It isn't fine. We've heard from residents, it isn't fine. You cannot go to somewhere that is also a ticket office. It just isn't appropriate. So I understand the frustration over the location, but the decision has been made and we've already debated this, so I don't understand this motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Have we got any more speakers? Oh, yeah. Councillor Chris Bain.
Yeah, I didn't intend to speak on this, but I did just want to support what Lewis Smith has said, but also to add to that we're about to enter a period of considerable uncertainty in terms of local government reorganisation. And when you enter periods of uncertainty, people need more access, not less. And I think without Marmion House, I'm not sure people in that period of uncertainty would have access to the services they need so much. So I have to say I will be opposing this motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bain. Councillor Samuel Smith I've got now. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to say, in relation to where we are at the moment, I mean, before I'd probably would have said that it had quite a neutral position on it. I would have preferred to have a new site, of course, but we are where we are, and obviously with the devolution stuff that's going on, that has to be considered. I know this is not question time, but it's a bit of an open sort of question to be considered, I suppose. If we are where we are, would the internal chamber to Marmion House, where the works are due, would that be looking to be paused? Because why spend money on us councillors who might not exist in our capacity, when obviously that money could be better used to the residents of Tamworth? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Carradine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking at the wording of this, asking us as that the Cabinet reviews further spending on the temporary home of Tamworth Borough Council, I've just realised what you meant by that is in temporary with the local government reorganisation. I thought it was alluding to something else, but yes. So, yes, it probably will be temporary, but it is the home of our council at the moment, and our council still needs to function. For the foreseeable future, it needs to function. New councils won't be in place for several years. So in the meantime, that council office building needs to be fit for purpose, fit for the people who work in it, and fit for our residents. We've already completed the work on the front desk, and as Lewis has said, the doors are opening next week, something I'm extremely proud of. And only last night, at our surgery, as Sarah was talking about earlier, we had a resident come to us who would benefit from being able to have that face-to-face conversation with the council after being frustrated, as Natalie said, with trying to do things by phone. For some people, it just doesn't work. The majority, with regards to Councillor Smith's issue around the council chamber, the majority of that work has already been completed, and I, for one, want to see that go through. I don't think this room is fit for us to have our meetings in. The lights in here are absolutely awful, and if we were to change it, it wouldn't be in keeping with the building, and it would cost an awful lot of money. So it is a much better option that we put our meetings into the council chamber, the properly formed council chamber. And as we've already said, we look at what this building needs to be used for. There's been an awful lot in past months, as every time we've talked about this, we have reiterated that we want to see this lovely building available for more suitable use for our residents, not just for us. So I maintain that while Marmion House remains the home of Tamworth Borough Council, we have to ensure that it's fit for purpose. I wouldn't be asking our Chief Executive to spend lots of money doing any remodelling, but if something does need to be done to ensure that the work is done properly, then I would not balk at that. But, you know, we have no plans to start remodelling floors, as have been done in the past.
Thank you very much. I've got Councillor Richard Kingston now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have discussed this till we're blue in the face, I think. And I have been probably responsible for an awful lot of those discussions. With my petition a couple of years ago, or whenever it was, to get a front desk service back. But we agreed, and I'm not going to pick points, we agreed when the opposition was in control that we would exclude Marmion House, if I'm right in that. But again, I'm not here to do that. A decision has been made, as Councillor Statham has said, and Marmion House is just a few days from being open. Whether we like it or not, that money has been spent. We can't really stop that now, unless we're going to waste that money and reinvest it in a unit in Ankerside. So the realist in me says, we are where we are, so we have to accept that the front desk at Marmion House, or the front desk is going to be at Marmion House. And I'm quite prepared to suck it up, put my big boy pants on and say, we lost, and Marmion House front desk is going to be open in a week's time. My concern is now we know with this white paper that we're going to see some drastic changes in the next couple of years. It's not going to be years away. We're going to see those changes start to kick in probably within 2 years, maybe 3. If you look, the government said, or the Labour Party said, and I don't want to get politically thing about it, but it was in their manifesto that they wanted this reorganisation, devolution, call it what you want, to be over by the end of their first term. So we're going to know where we stand within 18 months to 2 years. So I don't know whether we want to take this as an amendment, I don't know. But what I'm suggesting is we can ask the Cabinet to review, but the decision is going to come back. Yes, it's going to be okay. Because the Cabinet made the decision before. And as I said, I've got to put my big boy pants on, suck it up and accept it. But wouldn't it make sense to remain here for council meetings? That way, any money that was due to be spent, and I'm assuming it hasn't been spent yet, on refurbing the council chamber at Marmion House isn't wasted. So we can sort of cut our losses, if that's the right phrase to use. We will accept the front desk at Marmion House and stop any further. I mean, you already said, Carol, the fact that you weren't going to do any reorganisation of floors, which is great, because you know, what's the point now? Wouldn't it make sense just to stop where we are now, freeze it all, continue here for the meetings, so that we're not spending tens of thousands on audio-visual equipment or whatever it is that's going to be in the chamber there at Marmion House. We've made do for 5 years, is it, with this setup here. Another 18 months, 2 years isn't going to hurt. If it's 3 years, it's not going to hurt. Because it's the people of Tamworth we have to consider now. And if we're going through the reorganisation, we don't want to spend any money for the sake of spending that money. So I'm prepared to make it an amendment, I don't quite know how we could word it, that this council halts work on reopening the council chamber at Marmion House and just focuses on the front desk services. If you want me to put that as an amendment, if I can get some nods or something like that, if you think. So I'll amend the motion, I'll get the wording sorted, that this council requests that the Cabinet, for argument's sake, we can leave the reviews, the decision in there, if you want to, really, opposition group. And the amendment would be, Council requests that the Cabinet reviews the decision re Marmion House following the announcement of the abolition of district and borough councils. Further spending on the temporary home of Tamworth Borough Council, in particular the work regarding the council chamber at Marmion House, is halted immediately, and we continue to hold council meetings in the Town Hall, Market Street. I'll move that as an amendment to the motion and look for a seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, because I've got a mover and a seconder, we're going to have to go to a vote on the amendment that Councillor Kingston's put forward. Oh, okay. Those in favour? Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll debate it first. Why not? Why not? So, yeah, we're going to debate the amendment now then. And I've got Councillor Oates first. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I love the looks I get when I stick my hand up and go, hold on a minute, can we do this? So, in terms of the amendment, I don't think it adds much to the original motion, and let me explain the reasons for that. We have the original motion, which calls for a review of the decision re Marmion House. It then goes on to talk about reception, the home time broadcast and its reception should be halted. In calling for a review, I would anticipate, if this was to be carried, that the Cabinet reviews each and every element. And as we've heard this evening, reception is due to open next Tuesday. I'd hazard a guess that whether it's included in here or not, contracts, etc., and so on and so forth have been signed, and that's going to happen, so that can't be halted. However, if we call for a review, that reviews every other element. And I think what has come out during the discussion is a live, in-the-moment update on the elements that we are aware of. We've discussed very briefly the council chamber. We've discussed very briefly the not knocking around floors and whatever else. So I'm not sure that the amendment adds anything to the original motion that the word reviews the decision would cover. I think talking about the chamber only would actually focus attention on only the chamber and no other elements that may or may not be progressing. And in terms of the reception, you know, there's an inevitability at this time and date that whether we ask for a review or not, that work is going to be completed because it's as near as damn it done. So I don't believe the motion adds the amendment adds anything to the motion that isn't covered in the request for the Cabinet to review that whole piece of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the amendment? Okay. I'm going to go to Councillor Kingston for the right to reply. And Councillor Kingston, if you, at the end, could you just basically speak out the motion as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I mean, when you actually look at the wording, we can debate this for ages. There's no reference, and I'm sure, and perhaps we can get an update, to install the audio-visual equipment as mentioned in the original document that is or was going to be installed in the council chamber is not going to be a small amount of money. This motion makes reference to the front desk. It also, I'll agree with Councillor Oates, you know, you've got reference to the temporary home of Tamworth Borough Council. I'm concerned about this expenditure on the AV equipment, new carpet, new chairs, all the rest of it, in that council chamber going ahead. Now, even if we stop and cancel those contracts, and yes, there'll be a fee to pay, if contracts have indeed been exchanged, and I don't know, then surely that fee will be less than going ahead with the purchase of carpet and chairs and cameras and videos and microphones and all the rest of it that's associated with it. I'm not suggesting that we spend that money here. I'm suggesting we cut our losses and do what's right for the people of Tamworth. We've got the front desk service. That opens Tuesday or whenever it is next week. Do the public really need us to spend money on the council chamber? I would argue no. Hence, that amendment, which states quite clearly, halts the work on reopening the council chamber at Marmion House. Does that help, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Councillor Kingston. So we're going to go and vote on the amendment that Councillor Kingston has just said. So those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thanking you. Those against the amendment, please raise your hands. Okay. Any abstentions? The amendment has not been carried, so we are going back to the original motion, I believe. Will we still in discussion, yeah? Yeah, that's right, yep. So is there anyone else that hasn't spoken would like to speak on the original motion? In that case then, I'm going to bring Councillor Oates back in to for his right reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be quite brief. Councillor Kingston, it's 6 years since we started putting up with this room, I think, as you put it, or making do with it. And that was following your decision when you became mayor the second time to have full council meetings in here. In terms of the other points, temporary home. We stood here in March, was it last year, when the petition was received, and the now controlling group's main opposition to the assembly rooms or any other option was that it was temporary. In fact, I could quote one of the councillors that their issue at the time wasn't the location, it was the temporary nature of the location. So I just wondered what had changed. Well, we know what's changed. We thought it was permanent. And then all of a sudden, in December, we get a white paper that makes it temporary again. But surely that's a trigger to review what we're doing, review the progress. Comment was made about light bulbs. And when you've been kicking around as long as some of us have, you'll remember the Labour budget in 2001, when £100,000 was proposed on new light bulbs and energy efficient lighting in the council chamber in Marmion House. Bless him, Bruce Bowson got a front page of the Herald with that, picking up that point. We have to be careful going forward, Mr. Mayor. We have to be careful that the Borough Council, whether it's in a temporary home or manages somehow to get through reorganisation in some form or another, that it's about the council. It's not about an 8-storey white elephant that was taken on because it wasn't commercially viable when it was put to market in the business sector when it was originally built. We seem to have turned Marmion House into an icon of the home of Tamworth Borough Council. It's bricks and mortar, as most buildings are. What we're asking for this evening is a response to the local government white paper and a response to the temporary nature of Tamworth Borough Council's home and its reception, as we spoke about, and that opportunity to have that review, an update, and potentially stop spending any further money that we may not need to, as we're only going to be in existence for a few more years. So that's what we're asking for, Mr. Mayor. The motion's there, it's on the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. So, as I say, you know what the motion is. It's in front of you. We're going to go to the vote. Those in favour of the original motion that Jeremy Oates and co put forward, please raise your hands. Thanking you. Those against the motion, please raise your hands. Thank you. And I'll abstain. That motion was lost. There's me. Oh, any abstentions? I did say it, sorry. Must have said a bit quiet, I apologise. So 3. No problem. So we're going to go to item 8 on the agenda, which is the exclusion of press and public. So I just have to read a statement that in accordance with the provisions of the local authorities, executive arrangements, meeting and access to information, England Regulations 2012 and Section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public will be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of the following business on the grounds that it involves to be likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 1 and 2 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act, and the public interest in withholding the information outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information to the public. So, at the time of this agenda is published, received, no part of the meeting should be open to the public. I'm going to ask for a mover. Oh, Councillor Wood got there again, and I'm going to ask for a seconder. Oh, Councillor Price already had his hand up. Thank you. So we're going to go to a vote. Those in favour, please raise your hands. Yep. Any against? No. Okay, thanking you. And I would like to thank the public that turned up this evening, and thank you to those that have watched on YouTube, and enjoy the rest of your evening.